myself. My name is Asha Burwell. I currently am a rising 2L at UDC David A. Clark School of Law in Washington, D.C. I'm also serving as this upcoming year's president of our Black Law Students Association. And tonight I'm just going to be talking a little bit about the idea of movement lawyering and what that means as a law student and UDC law, so my law school's role in social justice advocacy work. HU, yes, I am also a Howard alumna, so yes, I definitely appreciate the shout out. So I just want to first get started with the reason why I'm coming on live today. So I've been working with organizations within my law school as well as members of the DC community to host a peaceful sit-in this Saturday, July 4th at the Supreme Court Public Sidewalk. And pretty much the purpose of the event is to shine light on Black women's stories, as well as the uplifting of Black women's voices within our communities. What pretty much inspired the sit-in was the lack of justice we've been seeing in Breonna Taylor's case, and more recently, the stories like Oluwatoyin Salu and Nakia Crawford and other Black women, Black trans women as well, who have been fell victim to our system, whether that be police violence, racial violence, or just violence against Black women as a whole. So I just want to also make it known that if anybody has any questions, you can click the bottom icon in the middle that has the question mark if you guys have any questions, and I'll click it so that other people can see it, and I'm really open to answering any questions that anyone has. But the first thing I'll talk about is, I guess, just the idea of movement lawyering as a concept and the aspect of knowing your rights while protesting. I want to get into that and talk about the different roles that we can play, in, fighting for racial justice and social justice, and that it's not limited to solely just protesting. I know that not everyone can be protesting right now. We're also fighting a pandemic. So I wanted the sit-in to be an opportunity where people can still social distance, as well as people who are older with disabilities don't have to worry about marching and things like that. But ultimately, we all have a right to peacefully assemble. So I just want to make it known as well, I'm not a lawyer. I'm in law school right now, so I can't give actual legal advice, but I can say that we do have the right to free speech and to peacefully assemble. So I think that's something that people should keep in mind when they are out there, participating in marches and things like that. There are certain rights that you have, and there are numbers and helplines that you can call if, God forbid, anything happens in regards to being arrested or anything like that. But this Saturday's event isn't going to be that type of energy. It's going to be, like I said, a peaceful event where people have the opportunity to listen to community speakers and just different Black women who have different stories that can allow people to just be more aware of the Black women's struggle and the need for our protection as well. Does anybody have any questions pertaining to the march or just, I guess, anything about protesting in general? Let's see. Thank you, whoever said that. Okay, so I'll also talk about the idea of movement lawyering as well. So like I said, I am a law student, so I've been trying to, figure out what I can do as a student in regards to being active in my community and helping, contribute to the Black Lives Matter movement itself. And I think that the idea of movement lawyering is pretty much just a concept that it invokes, you knowing, you being aware of the resources that you have and utilizing those resources in any way that you can. And I think that being in law school itself has enabled me to have a lot more resources than the average student, just in regards to ideas about the law or just having professors who are lawyers and things like that. So I think that a student role, not even just necessarily a law student role, but a student role as a whole, we have so many connections to different people within different organizations, or even just different tools within our schools and our community that we can actually use to see what can we do as students to help contribute to the movement. Particularly myself, it's a little frustrating sometimes since I'm not a barred attorney. I can't represent people in the courts, but I think that, being able to plan things like the July 4th sit-in, or just working with people within our Black Law Students Association, has really allowed me to be able to see the role that I can play as a student leader and just as a student myself. Hello. Hey, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so some other things that I wanted to highlight too about Saturday is, I know it's going to be really hot out, and the weather might be kind of a concern for some people, but I do want people to just understand the reasoning for the length of the event. The 8 hours of the sit-in is supposed to be representative of the 8 hours that Breonna Taylor suffered. And I'm hoping that the duration of the event and it lingering on can be a reclamation of the holiday that a lot of people celebrate July 4th. But I know, a lot of people in the Black community don't really celebrate July 4th because we weren't free then. But I'm hoping it could be both a reclamation of the holiday as well as an opportunity for people to acknowledge the sacrifices that other Black women and other civil rights leaders have made for us by being out there for the 8 hours. I definitely don't encourage anyone to come out if they have any health problems or health concerns, especially in regards to the heat. But if you are able to come, I would appreciate people to be able to stay as long as they can. But I do understand and want people to know that you can come in and come out as well. But a little bit background of the speakers that are going to be at the event. So I really wanted to get a variety of people to be able to have their voices heard. So I wanted to get a mixture of leaders as well as, just community members to come and give their stories or some empowering words to other people who will be attending the event. Some of the speakers include the dean of my law school, as well as the regional director of the National Black Prosecutors Association. We have some singers that are going to be performing, as well as some people doing poetry, other local community leaders. And one of my friends from Howard is cousins with Oluwatoyin Salu, and she is gathered up the strength to speak as well. So I want the environment to be a really welcoming environment, and I want people to understand that this isn't an event that's specifically just for Black women or just for women in general. This is an event I hope that I can invite allies to come. And so the event is this Saturday, July 4th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's going to be at the Supreme Court at the public sidewalk. And just so you guys know, the reason why we had to reiterate that the event is going to be taking place on the public sidewalk is because, unfortunately, there is a law that bars us from being able to demonstrate on the actual grounds of the Supreme Court. So we can't be on the steps to demonstrate, or the grounds as I pictured on my story. You guys can take a look. We can only be on the public sidewalk. So you're welcome. So just come out, and you guys are all free to come. You can bring people. We're definitely going to have some extra masks and sanitizers and be taking social distancing into consideration as much as we can, but definitely come if you guys can. And just going back to the speakers as well, I like I said, I was just hoping that everyone's voices can be heard that day, and allies are welcome to come, men are welcome to come and encouraged to come. But I hope that this Saturday can be an opportunity for people to really start to understand the need for protection for Black women. We're also going to be leaving a memorial at the corner of the sidewalk of the Supreme Court as well, that people can add flowers or anything that they'd like to contribute. So we're leaving our mark after our demonstration. No problem. Yeah, so if anyone else has any questions, you can ask them in the little question box on the bottom. I will definitely check my DM. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sorry about that. So my next talking point is just going to be about my law school's role in social justice work. So the organization, I'm going to be the upcoming president of our Black Law Students Association. And pretty much our Black Law Students Association, the purpose of the organization is to be a voice and a resource for students, Black students and students of color within our law school, particularly being advocates for our community, but also just in recognition of the small representation of Black law students and Black people in the legal profession in general. So our Black Law Students Association, we've been feeling, it's our job right now to be very vocal and active during these times and with the heightened energy of the Black Lives Matter movement. So we've been trying to just see what we can do. I've pretty much been going off of the momentum of a March for Justice that we had a couple weeks ago with our Student Bar Association. We had we had almost 700 volunteers, a couple thousand people came out, and I think that it was just so important to reiterate to the community UDC Law's role in social justice work. And it's kind of just a concept that they've trained us as law students to be cognitive of and being aware of the different issues within our community, whether that be social or economic issues or even racial issues, and seeing what we can do as law students and future lawyers to bridge those gaps that exist within our communities and our society right now. Thank you. But yeah, you guys are free to ask any questions you have about the march or anything about the organization that's starting it. Some other organizations we've been working with as well. Like I said, one of the directors from the National Black Prosecutors Association is going to be coming out, but we've been having a lot of support from Howard University's Black Law Students Association as well. They've been a huge support system for us, and pretty much just like asking us if we need anything, and just different members of the community in general. And another thing I wanted to talk about too was just the concept of organizing itself. Thank you. Hey. The concept of organizing itself. So one thing a message I wanted to put out there too was a lot of people think you have to be like, this famous person to organize. I definitely will get to your question as well. But I just wanted to reiterate that you don't have to be, this huge famous person to organize things. It really is just about using your connections and just reaching out to people, asking for help. I've used like the most simple things to make the graphic, and just being in constant communication with people around us. That's really all I really had to do. Someone asked, can lawyers outside of DC become a part of the organization? So my organization is within my law school, so you do have to be a student at UDC Law to be a part of our Black Law Students Association. But there are a good amount of organizations that will be at the event who are kind of DMV area oriented legal organizations that do a lot of justice work. The Washington Bar Association would be a great person to ask about that as well, because they have a lot of connects with local DMV chapter organizations. I think also they call it WAC Bar, but it's the Greater Washington Area Lawyers Division, and their Women's Lawyer Division has some connects as well, if you want to reach out to them. But yeah, unfortunately, our BOSA is strictly for UDC law students, particularly. Until freedom organizing would be a great. Okay, great. I'll definitely reach out to them. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. But yeah, for anyone just tuning in, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Asha Burwell. I am a rising 2L or second year law student at UDC Law in Washington, D.C. And I am organizing a sit-in this Saturday for Black women. It's a peaceful sit-in that will take place at the Supreme Court from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And its purpose is to shine light on Black women's stories and in recognition of recent cases such as Breonna Taylor, Oluwatoyin Salu, and Nakia Crawford, and just shining light on the different instances of violence against Black women, as well as the lack of justice and protection for us. If you guys have any questions as well, you can ask in the little box on the corner. Let's see. So someone asked, what are some ways protesters can protect their rights? So like I said, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give legal advice. I do recommend if anyone does need any particular legal advice to reach out to an actual bar attorney. But I can say there are a lot of rights that you guys have, or anyone that wants to engage in protesting. Like I said, we do have a right to free speech and a right to peacefully assemble. So as long as any open spaces that do allow public demonstrations, which is usually public property, you do have the right to attend protests. I would say some things that I would recommend is just being cognizant of like your surroundings and the nature of the march. I personally don't put down anyone for their choice of protest, but I will say that, if you have a certain intent or mission in mind for yourself, and that being, for example, you do not want to get arrested, I would just be really aware of the type of flyer you might see, or the purpose behind certain demonstrations. Some demonstrations get a little more intense than others that are strictly peaceful and things like that. I will say, if you are one of those people who do engage in, more intense protests, then to definitely keep in mind that, especially us being in DC and there being so many protocols within downtown, it's very it's a risk that you can get arrested. And if you do get arrested, I would just recommend that you don't at all speak to police until you have an attorney representing you. And I know that if you go to the Black Lives Matter DC website, they have a lot of information pertaining to the number to call for DC legal assistance for protesters in DC, as well as some information about what resources they'll have after, they might have gotten out and things like that. But a lot of legal resources are on there. Also, Law for Black Lives DC, their Instagram has a lot of local sources and people doing pro bono work for any protesters that are getting arrested. But I just want to say as well, you going to a protest doesn't mean you're going to get arrested. Like I said, as someone who's been out there a good amount of times, I will say that you have more control than it may seem. It's just, like I said, being aware of your surroundings, and before you attend any type of demonstration, really researching who's hosting the demonstration, what the purpose is, what are some things that they're going to be doing, where will they be at, and things like that. Also, another thing I wanted to say in regards to being aware of rights while protesting is, if you do, we've been seeing on TV that there are instances of peaceful protesters being, attacked by the police, or dealing with the police aggressively, even though, they're being peaceful. So I do recommend just being on the lookout for legal observers that are around. They are trained lawyers or law students that are trained on, addressing certain issues in regards to police behavior, and they know how to document it and what next steps to make. So just if anything does happen to anyone who does engage in protesting, just trying to get like possibly a badge number or what the officer looked like and certain identification points so that you are aware of being able to report them. All right. And again, for anyone tuning in, my name is Asha Burwell, and I'm currently a rising second-year law student at UDC Law in Washington, D.C. I'm this upcoming year's president of our Black Law Students Association, and I am currently working with organizations within my school to host a peaceful sit-in this Saturday, July 4th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The sit-in is pretty much just to shine light on Black women's stories and to fight for Black women and allow Black women voices in our community to be uplifted, and to just show people why Black women need protection. And I'm hoping that the event can, leave an impact and a message within not only our community, but whoever hears about the purpose of the event, and they can see, the reasoning behind the event in regards to stories like Breonna Taylor, Oluwatoyin Salu, and Nakia Crawford, and stories like that. I really hope that people can come out and really get a taste of just what Black women have been dealing with and what we have to deal with through the different speakers that will be presenting. And I just want it to be something that people can remember, possibly do it again next year. A reclamation of July 4th, which most Black people don't celebrate because we were not free when July 4th was created. So that's pretty much the basis of the event. If anybody does have any questions about it, or even if you don't think about them now, you can either click the question on the bottom and you can ask a question, or my Instagram is pinned at the bottom if you guys have any questions later on and would like to DM me, or if you have any concerns about that, or just protesting in general or organizing. So I answered this question already, but I think someone had asked what question I was responding to. Hi. But yeah, that's pretty much all the talking points I've had. Like I said, I'm just a law student that's trying to utilize my resources and just figure out what I can do from where I am with what I know for our community, and contributing to the Black Lives Matter movement in itself. I really also just want to thank DC Now Events for even having me on your live. I've never done this before where I've taken over a live, but I really do appreciate anyone who's been allowing me to use my voice and just uplifting me or supporting me in Saturday's demonstration. But I want to just reiterate that DC Now Events have just been so supportive by being our sponsor, our advertising sponsor for the Black Women's Sit-In. And I do challenge, anyone watching this or anyone who tunes in to just be cognizant of who you know, and using the things that you know and the resources you have. I think that we don't realize how powerful we are until we start to see the different people we know and how many connections there are around us that can be used to help create change and things like that. But if anyone has any questions about organizing or protesting or UDC law in general, you can definitely reach out to my Instagram or ask questions here. Hi. But yeah, you can reach out to my Instagram or ask questions here. I'm always free to talk to anyone that needs any advice about anything. Hello to everyone waving. So someone asked for Saturday's sit-in, should we bring our own seating is one question. Is there a particular area that we are able to sit in? So that's a great question. So like I said, we're going to be on the public sidewalk. For anyone who's never been to the Supreme Court, there is a space that has some bars up right before the steps. So that would all be considered the public sidewalk. So it's a wide a wide area of concrete, and then the sidewalk is right there. So there won't be any actual like seating. So we're doing this like protest style. So I did reach out and ask everyone if they could to bring chairs or blankets or something to sit on if you don't like to sit on the ground. But it's pretty much ultimately ground based. But so seating won't be available. But I encourage anyone, like if you have a blanket or something you can sit on the ground, then you can bring that. But that should pretty much suffice for that. Should I? Just making sure I'm getting all of your questions. So someone did ask about social distancing as well. So like I said, we are going to be trying to be mindful of the fact that we're fighting a pandemic as well, and social distancing as much as we can. But I will be honest and say that, large groups of people, and I've been to protests, and you might not be as far away from someone as you want to be. But there are different, things that we can do ourselves, like keeping our masks on. I'm going to be having some extra masks at the event and hand sanitizer as well. But since it is a sit-in and it's outdoors, you can personally, if you want to separate yourself from the larger group of people, you can, sit a little further and things like that. Does anyone else have any questions? Let's see. Is there a way we can donate to the cause? Yes. So the Black Law Students Association is accepting donations to our PayPal account. So Howard Bolsa, we haven't actually posted that on our actual Instagram, but we did provide it in the RSVP link, and I can make sure it's there. But yeah, so our Bolsa is taking donations to our PayPal account just to purchase items for the event, like water, food, certain sanitary items that we might need and things like that, or printing costs for flyers we're going to be handing out at the event. Can anyone speak during the event, or do we have to sign up to speak? So we have set speakers for the event, but for the reasoning that I want to allow all Black women's voices to be heard, and I want Black women to feel encouraged to speak if they'd like to, I will be doing a break between the Speaker 1 and 2 series, where I'm going to be speaking to other people at the event and see if anyone would like to come up and say some words or things like that, so that the day can consist of different people having their voices heard. All right, so I think I only have a couple more minutes on here. But just to reiterate, if anybody else has any other questions or needs advice about anything, you can just DM me on Instagram. My Instagram is right on the bottom. And if you guys need anything or just have any questions about Saturday or just law school in general, or like things pertaining to